Hello there, and welcome to another episode of the Alter Your Health podcast. I'm Dr. Ben,
And I'm Dr. Susanna.
and we are both naturopathic doctors who empower you to heal yourself through whole food, plant based nutrition, as well as mind body medicine. And today, on the Wisdom Wednesday episodes of the podcast, we explore the connections between mind and body, the kind of energetic influences to health and disease. And if you've been along with us along this journey of altering your health from head to toe, you know that we're talking about the thyroid today. And I think that this is kind of, the first opportunity that we get to tap into more of that chakra conversation, right? We introduced it a little bit last week when we were talking about the throat and, upper respiratory infections and chronic coughs and these sort of things. But really, the fifth chakra, as we'll talk about, is more associated with the endocrine system and the functionality of our thyroid gland. And we discussed all of the nutritional and lifestyle things related to thyroid health and reversing autoimmune thyroiditis, both hypothyroidism and hyperthyroidism, and the symptoms and ways we can support that gland and that gland imbalancing itself. In Medicinal Monday, we talked all about that stuff. And today we're excited to explore the, deeper, energetic, spiritual connections.
Definitely. First, I always like to start off by talking about the brain-body connection between, chronic stress and its effect on thyroid health. And we did talk about this a little bit on Monday, that our cortisol levels, the amount of stress that our adrenal glands are undergoing and how much cortisol and adrenaline they're producing definitely plays a big impact, or has a big impact, on our thyroid, and I mean on all of our endocrine glands, really. But it's just important to at least mention that when we go into more of this deeper connection, or into this deeper conversation on the connection between our brain and our body.
And Susanna's got some hormones that are and also maybe a throat clearing opportunity.
Yes. How timely since
For sure. It's always timely. Whenever we're in a state of stress, which of course a lot of people relate to stress as like, oh, I'm not stressed, but our body, the physiologic stress, it's like, oh, sure, there's stressful events that are going on in my life, but I'm okay. But the body doesn't lie, right? And whenever that endocrine system, or that stress, the sympathetic nervous system is being activated in either like a low level way or kind of an more extreme sort of way, that activation, those hormones are going to influence the balance of all the other hormones and endocrine gland functions in our body. That's an important thing to put out there right off the bat, because of course, like that's just like hard science, that's like not
physiology.
That's just physiology. That's not metaphysical stuff. That's very physiologic stuff.
Right.
With regard to the metaphysical stuff, that brings us more to talk about the fifth chakra, which is, for those not familiar with the chakra system, really is these energetic centers in the body, right? And I guess we've got 7 of them, but some argue that there's even more and like more subtle ones. But these 7 energetic centers more or less align with major endocrine glands in the body. So of course, first one starting in the base of our spine and then working up to the crown of our head. And the fifth chakra is right in the center of our throat. And these chakras are actually, they've been described for thousands of years in ancient medical traditions, primarily like Ayurveda. But the chakras are not just energy centers. They are energy centers, but these energy centers are directly aligned with the energy centers of the body. Because when I think about energy in the body, I think about like the nervous system and circulatory system. And these energy centers have just an abundance of nervous system input and circulatory system, vascular system. So there really is more energy going on in these, endocrine glands and these energy centers in the body. And we can think about how just subtle shifts in circulation and nervous system activity is going to have dramatic effects on how these organs and glands are functioning and operating. So again, while this is more of the metaphysical, spiritual kind of stuff, I definitely see the direct physiologic implications. So the intention is just again to like really get more practical and grounded with this sort of stuff, which has of course been, wisdom that has guided health in so many traditions for thousands of years.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit more about what we know about these chakras or the fifth chakra. And the fifth chakra is known as our center for self expression and communication. And it's really interesting because, Monday we were talking about hyperthyroidism versus hypothyroidism. And with the chakras, there's also this understanding that a chakra can either be overactive or underactive. And so classically, an underactive throat chakra is associated with hypothyroidism, whereas an overactive chakra is associated with hyperthyroidism. And, if we think about kind of how those overactive or underactive chakras throat chakra might express itself through a human being and their communication or self-expression, we can kind of, draw the connection between someone who's having that hypo functioning of their thyroid and kind of diminished function of the throat chakra might have some diminished, self-expression. They might be kind of holding themselves back versus someone with hyperthyroidism might actually be, kind of putting their expression all over the place in kind of a disorganized way, a hyper way.
I certainly also, think about the other energy centers, the other chakras in the body, and how the relationship between those. So I think it's easy to kind of simplify, like, oh, why do I have thyroid issues? I'm pretty good with my self-expression, but there might be some other thing that's influencing the degree to which that self-expression comes through authentically. And it's one thing to have that kind of conceptual, like, oh, I don't overly express, or I have a healthy, authentic self-expression. And then the kind of deeper truth behind that, like, is there something that we're not aware of, that we're not expressing? Is there, some passion or purpose that we aren't really embracing and we're holding ourselves back from? So that's all to say, like, we've as human beings, we've got these blind spots. So our the physiologic manifestation of health or disease, we like to see as opportunities to look and consider, the opportunities to look at those blind spots and embrace, our fullest expression, even though and that fullest expression is a continually adapting, evolving process, right? So, yeah. What other opportunities or conditions or questions can we consider when thinking about authentically tapping into healthy, balanced throat chakra expression?
Yes. Well, yeah, on to the stuff that I really want to talk about now. Because I always, before these Wisdom Wednesday episodes, I like to reference some kind of mind body teachers to see what they're saying about different organs.
Cool.
And I was very, very fascinated this week when looking up what Ina Siegel said about the thyroid gland. She said possible contributing factors to thyroid issues include lack of drive, feeling sluggish, numb, disconnected from your life's purpose, holding back and constantly trying to please others by carrying their burdens and worries. And similarly, if I go over to Louise Hay's book, I see that under thyroid issues, there's kind of this attitude, she has in quotes, I never get to do what I want to do. when is it going to be my turn?
Hmm.
And, I was thinking more about this because I was surprised that there wasn't something that was just more directly talking about communication or lack of communication, because that came up a lot last week when we were talking about chronic throat issues. But I thought about this more deeply, and I was seeing how all of these themes that were brought up in these books very much are related to throat chakra energy and self-expression, but on a deeper
Right.
level,
Yeah.
not just
It's not
about
just vocalizing.
what we're saying and vocalizing.
Yeah.
It's about how we're actually acting in our life, how we are carrying out our life's purpose, where we're holding ourselves back versus where we're allowing ourselves to really live into our full potential.
Yeah, that's a really great distinction between, the depths of of inquiry that we can have with regard to our self-expression. Because yeah, it's one thing to just like have the difficult conversations or say the difficult things that and have the courage to share something deep, but it's something else to really have the courage and clarity to follow and act and live into a deeper passion or purpose, which yeah, for sure is involved with authentic communication, but it's also involved with making choices and decisions that are more aligned and prioritizing ourselves. And I think that, of course, also talking to that theme that was brought up about like people pleasing, right? Putting ourselves back, which of course, like, it's healthy to do that too. It's kind of, we don't want to be completely selfish and self-centered all the time, but if we're putting people first at the expense of our health, at the expense of our passion and purpose and alignment, then we're gonna be having fifth chakra imbalances.
Totally.
Yeah.
I mean, what I find so interesting about these themes that were brought up in these books is, how all of it's connected when we're talking about that people pleasing tendency, then that you were bringing up. There is a passivity that comes with people pleasing, because rather than us taking initiative to do what we want, we just see what everyone else around us wants, and then we respond to them. And then what can happen in that process is the building up of resentment,
Hmm.
which makes me think of what Louise Hay said here, like, hey, I never get to do what I want to do. When is it going to be my turn to do what I want to do? To do what I want to do, to shine, right? And so I think it's such an awesome invitation to do that self-inquiry. Like, hey, am I really like truthful with myself in terms of, am I taking the action in life that I am authentically inspired to take? Or am I just kind of shoving it away because, it's easier? It's just kind of easier for me to continue in this people pleasing pattern that I've always been in life.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, hopefully this conversation helps to stir up these deeper questions, because I
Yeah.
think that, again, it's one thing to kind of conceptualize this sort of stuff. And I always, as we're having this conversation here and now, I'm thinking about like, like the next chapter of life, like whatever that looks like. How can I bring that into greater balance? That authentic self-expression and prioritizing my passion and purpose, while also being mindful and bringing into consideration like friends and family, and knowing that as I pursue that purpose, I'm taking care of myself, but I'm also supporting a healthy community. Obviously a healthy community thrives when we're all thriving
Right.
individually.
Yeah. So, some questions here that Ina Siegel brings up that could be helpful for some listeners out there. What are you holding back and not expressing? Whose worries or burdens are you carrying in your thyroid? What do you want to do that you are not doing? I think that last question is especially powerful.
Hmm.
What are you doing, or what are you not doing? Sorry, what do you want to do that you are not doing? What do you want to do that you are not doing?
What are you wanting to do that you're not doing,
Well,
Dr. Susanna?
it just reminds me, I wasn't having thyroid issues. I was having severe back pain at the end of the year, in December or so. But one of the big insights I had that I truly believe led to the resolution of my back pain was realizing what area in life I hadn't yet fulfilled or really put any action towards, which was to become a mom. And it was this thing I'd always wanted to do. And I just always kept putting it on the back burner. I just always kept putting work first, or I always made some weird excuse, even though I know I've always wanted to be a mom. But, it could be related to a career that you've always wanted to go into. It could be related to some hobby, or maybe you've always wanted to get into improv comedy or singing or whatever it is.
Mhm.
And I think we all can relate to a time where it's like, oh, we realize, like, I'm kind of holding myself back from something that I've always wanted to do in life.
Yeah. So what is that?
What's that for you?
What am I holding myself back from?
I don't know. Does anything come to mind?
Oh boy.
Well, you've got a good thyroid. You've got a
Yeah.
healthy thyroid, right?
Well, let me tell you, if I get lab work done and my TSH is elevated, I'll be thinking about that. I'll be thinking about
It's a
that
good
more
question
deeply.
for everyone to think about.
Yeah.
Yes.
For sure. No, yeah, that's a really, I think maybe a good point to end on is, like, we don't have to have issues in order to optimize our energy, right? We can be proactive with our energetic kind of spiritual health and well-being, just as we can with our physical and physiologic health and biochemical balance, right?
Yes.
So yeah. Thanks for asking. I'll get back to you.
Yes.
Okay.
Can I just say something while we're wrapping up our communication related episode here?
Mhm.
For the last 3 or 4 weeks, I have felt as though my communication has been kind of not very clear, and I want to kind of make an excuse for that, which is pregnancy brain.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with fifth chakra stuff, or blame it on the fetus.
No, who knows? But pregnancy brain is a real thing. And and so anyway, just wanted to kind of give myself a little bit of grace in this as I'm approaching the end of the 3rd trimester here.
Not quite. You're in the middle of the 3rd trimester.
Yeah, I've got 7 more weeks. It's true.
All right.
Okay, everyone.
Peace and love, you guys. We'll see you next time.
We'll see you next week.